I never thought love could echo. But that night, I heard mine do exactly that. She stood in front of the mirror, her hands trembling, whispering, "I like you. I've liked you for a long time." And for a moment, I smiled. Because that voice, that tone, was meant for me once. But then she said his name, not mine. The world didn't break in an instant. It just cracked, slowly, like glass trying to hold too much silence. He looked like me. Same eyes, same build, even the same way he tucked his hands into his pockets. Maybe that's why she fell for him. Maybe I was just a rehearsal. After that night, I stopped knocking on her door, stopped waiting for her calls. But every time I looked in the mirror, I saw him, the man she loved, the man I wasn't. And now, months later, she's standing in front of me again, holding the same trembling note she once practiced. Except this time, she's confessing to me. And I can't tell if she's come back for me or for the reflection she still can't let go of. I used to think mirrors were harmless, just glass and light, a reflection, nothing more. But lately, mine feels like a confession booth. Every time I look into it, I see a version of myself I don't quite recognize. Someone quieter, lonelier, and heavier with words unsaid. The cracks don't show on my skin, they live in my eyes. And sometimes when the light hits them just right, I see her there, standing beside me, laughing, brushing my shoulder as if time never moved on. But it did. She had a way of softening every noise around her. When we first met, she spoke like she was afraid of being too loud, as if her words would scare away whatever fragile thing love was supposed to be. I liked that about her. The quiet, the calm. Our love wasn't fireworks. It was candlelight, dim, flickering but warm enough to make me forget the dark corners of myself. She once said, "Loud love burns fast. I want ours to last." So I learned to whisper, to listen, to hold her in ways that didn't demand attention. We built a home out of silence, but I didn't realize silence can echo. And sometimes those echoes lie. It started subtly, a distance I couldn't name, a hesitation in her voice when she said my name. She began closing her notebook when I walked in, tucking her phone under her pillow, humming songs I'd never heard before. "Who are you talking to?" I asked once, half joking. She smiled, the kind of smile that hides something small but significant. "No one," she said, "just practicing something." Practicing? The word lingered in my chest longer than it should have, but I let it go because love, real love, demands trust, and I wanted so badly to believe we were still real. That night, the air felt too still, the kind of stillness that holds its breath. Rain tapped against the windows, soft and rhythmic, like a heartbeat counting down. She was in my study, her favorite place to read, to write, to lose herself. I stood by the hallway, watching her reflection in the glass pane of the half-open door. She didn't know I was there. Her hair fell loose over her shoulders, her fingers trembling slightly as she clutched a folded note. She took a deep breath and then whispered, "I like you. I've liked you for a long time." The words hit me like a slow, unfolding bruise. I smiled at first, stupidly, instinctively, thinking it was one of her games, the ones where she'd pretend we were strangers meeting for the first time. But then she said his name, not mine. It was strange, how still I stayed. I didn't storm in. I didn't ask who he was. I just stood there, frozen between the truth and disbelief, watching her practice love for someone else using the voice that once trembled only for me. She said it again, his name, softer this time, like she was memorizing how it felt against her tongue. And then she smiled, a shy, hopeful smile I hadn't seen in months. That's when I realized she wasn't nervous because she feared rejection. She was nervous because she wanted him to say yes. I pressed my palm against the wall beside me just to feel something solid, because in that moment, everything else, the rain, the air, even my heartbeat, felt distant. Unreal. How long had it been happening? When did I stop being the person she rehearsed "I love you" for? When did I become just the audience? The note in her hand trembled and I could see faint ink bleeding through the paper. I wanted to walk in, to ask her who it was for, to tear that note apart before she gave it away. But I didn't, because sometimes seeing the truth hurts less than hearing it. When she finally left the room, I stayed behind. The lamp still glowed faintly, casting soft light across her handwriting notebook. Her pen was uncapped. Her tea had gone cold. I sat at her desk, the one covered in pressed flowers and unfinished poems, and stared at the reflection in the window. Rain blurred my face, turning it into something unrecognizable. Maybe that's why she fell for him. Maybe I'd changed so much that even my reflection looked like someone else. I found a page half torn from her notebook. It wasn't the confession, but it was close enough. "Sometimes I think I love the idea of him more than who he really is," it read. "Maybe I just need to hear someone say what he never could." The ink had smudged from where a teardrop had fallen. I wanted to believe it wasn't mine. That night, I didn't sleep. I watched the ceiling until dawn, tracing the cracks like fault lines in my chest. Every memory of her, every laugh, every whisper, started to sound rehearsed. Had she been practicing this for weeks? Months? By morning, the rain had stopped, but the silence it left behind was heavier than before. When she came out of her room, she smiled at me like nothing had changed. "Good morning," she said softly, her hair tied up, her eyes still sleepy. "Morning," I replied, matching her calm, pretending not to notice the faint ink stains on her fingers. We sat across from each other at breakfast, separated by more than just a table. She talked about errands, about deadlines, about the weather. Not once did she mention the confession. Not once did I ask. Because what could I say? "I heard you practicing love for someone else." No. Some truths sound pathetic when spoken aloud. Days turned into weeks, and the silence between us grew sharper. She stayed out later. Her laughter returned, but never around me. And I began to avoid mirrors altogether, because every time I looked I saw two versions of myself, the man she once loved and the one she was trying to forget. Love, I realized, doesn't die loudly. It fades, like light seeping out of a room slowly, mercilessly. And by the time you notice the dark, it's already too late. One night, I caught my own reflection again, standing alone in that same hallway, staring at the closed study door. It looked back at me with tired eyes, asking a question I didn't have the courage to answer. "Why are you still here?" I didn't know. Maybe because leaving would make it real. Maybe because part of me still believed she'd come back into that room, confessing again, this time to me. But she never did. Instead, I heard her laughter through the phone, the kind that used to belong to us. And when I caught a glimpse of his photo, the man she was speaking to, I felt something inside me quietly shatter. He looked like me. Not exactly, but close enough to hurt. That night, I stood before the mirror again, my reflection fractured by the faint morning light. I tried to smile. I tried to imagine how he looked when she said his name, how easily the word must V left her lips. Maybe I was just the sketch, and he was the finished portrait. I reached up, touched the mirror's surface, and whispered the only truth I had left. She loved the reflection more than the man. The glass was cold. My voice was smaller than I expected. Outside, the rain began again, soft, relentless, as if the sky itself couldn't hold back what I couldn't say. I didn't confront her. Not that night. Not the next day. Not ever. I just watched her love me in past tense, the way some people visit graves, not lovers. Because sometimes seeing the truth hurts less than hearing it. And the truth was simple. I wasn't the man she was practicing for. I was just the echo she left behind. I wasn't supposed to be there that night. She thought I was still out, buying groceries, running errands, doing something ordinary. But fate, in its cruel humor, has a way of making you return home early exactly when you shouldn't. The apartment was quiet, the kind of quiet that holds its breath. Only one light was on, my desk lamp. It cast a soft golden glow across the study, illuminating the corners of our life together. The scent of her perfume hung faintly in the air, jasmine and paper ink. It always reminded me of spring. I paused at the hallway, hearing her voice before I saw her. It was soft, trembling, rehearsed. "I like you," she whispered. "I've liked you for a long time." The words floated out like petals in slow motion. My heart tightened, because I'd heard them before. Once upon a time, those same words had been mine. I leaned closer, the floor creaking beneath me. Through the half-open door, I saw her reflection in the mirror above my desk. She was standing exactly where I used to. Same angle, same posture, the way I'd practice art sketches in the dim light, chasing perfection that never existed. But she wasn't practicing a speech for me. I knew that before she said his name, and when she did, my world stilled. It wasn't anger I felt first, it was confusion, the kind that crawls beneath your ribs and settles there like frost. Her voice cracked on his name, a sound so fragile it nearly broke me too. I wanted to burst in, to ask her why, to shout that I was right there, still loving her even after she stopped trying, but my body didn't move. I stood frozen, my reflection in the dark glass beside the door watching with me. Two versions of myself, one who loved her, and one who realized he'd already lost her. She rehearsed again, her hands trembling slightly as she spoke, as if love were something she needed to get right this time. Her reflection smiled, small, nervous, and I swear for a moment she looked happy, genuinely happy. It wasn't the kind of happiness I used to give her. It was lighter, freer, unburdened by history. That hurt more than betrayal ever could. She placed her hand on the table, my table, running her fingers along the scattered sketches I'd left there earlier. One of them was a self-portrait. I hadn't finished it yet, the eyes still half-formed, searching. She looked at it with a strange expression, part guilt, part nostalgia, and whispered his name again. The sound of it twisted in my chest like a blade. Maybe I would have felt less pain if he were nothing like me. But from the photos I'd seen, the mutual friends, the comments she didn't know I'd read, he was close enough to be haunting. Same dark hair, same eyes, even the same way he tucked his hands into his pockets when nervous. Maybe that's what she wanted. A clean copy of me, unscarred by the things I couldn't change. She sighed softly, folding the letter in her hands. "Again," she murmured to herself. "You can do better." Her voice steadied, gentle but determined. "I like you. I've liked you for a long time. You make me—" Her breath caught. She paused. "You make me feel seen." I almost laughed. Seen? Wasn't that what I tried to give her every day? To make her feel like she wasn't just loved, but understood? But somewhere along the way, maybe I'd stopped looking. Maybe I'd been too busy fighting my own shadows to notice hers growing beside me. The lamp flickered. She didn't notice. And that's when it hit me. She was using my space, my words, even my mirror to love someone else. My reflection stared back at me through the sliver of the door. It looked wrong, confused, betrayed, and painfully familiar. The man I saw wasn't angry. He was tired. The kind of tired that comes from giving too much without realizing it's already gone. I pressed my palm to the wall, steadying myself. The wallpaper was cool, grounding. She finished reading the note aloud, then folded it once, twice, 3 times. Perfect, careful folds, like she was handling something sacred. Then she smiled. That smile, I hadn't seen it in months. Not since before she started pulling away, before her laughter began to fade between half-hearted goodnights. Now it was back. Just not for me. And I realized something cruel. Maybe she never loved me. Maybe she only loved the version of me she built in her head. The quiet artist, the listener, the dreamer she thought would always be there to catch her. And when I became real, flawed, distant, human, she went searching for her illusion somewhere else. And now, that illusion had a face. His. The rain outside began to fall heavier, tapping against the windows like fingertips. The sound filled the room, drowning her soft rehearsals. She turned, almost as if she felt someone watching. For a second, her eyes flickered toward the door. I held my breath. If she opened it, she would see me, standing there, soaked in the kind of silence that burns. But she didn't. She just adjusted the lamp and continued. The world narrowed to that one room. Her whispering, my breathing, the rain. It was almost poetic, in a cruel, cinematic way. Two people sharing the same air, separated by a door and a truth neither wanted to confront. When she finally stopped, she sat down at my desk. Her shoulders slumped. The mask slipped. I saw her face in the reflection. Tired, uncertain, small. For a fleeting moment, she looked like the girl I fell in love with, and that hurt more than anything else, because it reminded me she was still in there somewhere. Just not mine anymore. Just not mine anymore. I wanted to speak then, to say her name, to ask why, but my voice refused. My lips wouldn't move. It's strange how heartbreak can silence you completely, how love can turn even a scream into a whisper that dies before leaving your throat. She stood up, folded the note carefully, and placed it on the desk. Then she looked at her own reflection, smiled faintly, and said, "He'll like it. He has to. He, not you, not me." The word sliced through the room like lightning. She turned off the lamp, leaving the room bathed in darkness. The only thing glowing was the faint reflection of her silhouette in the window. And then she walked away. When the front door clicked shut, I stepped into the study. The air still carried her warmth, her scent, her ghost. I turned on the lamp again, bathing the room in the same golden light she'd stood under moments ago. On the desk, the note remained, the one she had folded with trembling hands. I shouldn't have touched it, but I did. My thumb brushed over the edges, tracing the faint creases. The ink had bled slightly where her fingers lingered too long. I unfolded it, and there it was, the confession. Simple words, honest words, just not for me. I like you. I've liked you for a long time. You make me feel seen. I stared at the page until the letters blurred, until her voice replayed in my head like an echo I couldn't turn off. I looked up, and the mirror caught me again. Only this time I didn't recognize the man staring back. He looked hollow, as if someone had taken his outline and left the rest unfinished. Maybe that's what I was now. An unfinished version of someone she used to love. The rain outside slowed, turning into a soft drizzle. The city lights shimmered through the wet glass, painting the room in fractured gold. I placed the letter back where I found it, folded exactly as it was. Because some truths are better left untouched, not because they don't hurt, but because reopening them won't change the ending. Then I turned off the lamp. In the darkness, I could still see her reflection in my mind, smiling at a future I no longer belonged to. And as I stood there, watching the rain blur my own reflection in the mirror, one thought repeated in my chest like a confession I'd never say aloud. She didn't leave me for him. She left me for the version of me I could never be again. The first time I saw him, it felt like watching my ghost walk by. It was a strange kind of déjà vu, the kind that makes your stomach twist before your mind catches up. He had my smile, my posture, even the way he adjusted his sleeves before speaking. The same nervous tick I thought only I had, except he looked lighter, unburdened. as if he'd never been the kind of man who stayed up until dawn wondering when love had stopped sounding like love. I was standing outside the cafe when I saw them through the glass. Her sitting by the window, her laughter catching the light, and him leaning in just close enough to make her forget anyone else existed. The world didn't collapse. It just went quiet, like someone turned down the volume on everything except my heartbeat. She hadn't seen me yet, or maybe she had, and just didn't flinch this time. It's strange how betrayal doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just sits quietly at a table for two, sipping coffee and wearing your reflection. He laughed at something she said, and I recognized that laugh, not because I'd heard it before, but because it was mine. It was eerie, watching someone else live a version of your life that ended too early. She once told me I was too complicated, mysterious, deep, maybe even poetic. But now, looking at him, the simple ease in his presence, the way she leaned toward him without fear, I understood what she meant. Maybe she didn't want poetry. Maybe she just wanted peace. When I finally stepped inside, the bell above the door rang like a warning. Her laughter stopped mid-sentence. She looked up. Our eyes met. And for a heartbeat, I saw everything we been, and everything we lost, reflected in her stare. "Hey," she said softly, pretending surprise, though her hands trembled when she set her cup down. "Hey," I echoed, forcing a smile that didn't belong to me anymore. Her gaze darted to him, the man beside her. He turned, polite, curious. "This is—" she started, her voice catching, but she didn't finish my name. He extended a hand, smiling that same easy smile I used to wear. "I've heard about you," he said warmly. "She talks about you a lot." "Does she?" I wanted to ask, but instead I shook his hand, feeling the ghost of myself staring back through his eyes. He had the same cologne I used to wear, the same taste in the clothes, even his voice carried the same tone. Calm, deliberate, gentle when he spoke to her. Every small detail screamed you've been replaced, not violently, not cruelly, but quietly. The way people change wallpaper, or habits, or lovers. She asked how I'd been. I told her I was fine. She smiled, that careful, polite smile people reserve for strangers they once loved. Then she turned to him, her tone softening, her body angling closer. And I realized something devastating. She wasn't doing it to hurt me. She just didn't think she was doing anything wrong. The cafe felt smaller by the minute. Every reflection in the glass caught my face and his, overlapping, merging, blurring until I couldn't tell which of us I was supposed to be. He talked about art, about galleries, about travel. Every topic felt like a ghost from my own conversations with her. Recycled lines, familiar rhythms. I should have been angry, but all I felt was an odd, detached sadness, the kind that hums quietly under your ribs. He was everything I'd once tried to be for her. And the worst part, he didn't even know it. At one point, she leaned her head on her hand, smiling at something he said, that effortless, glowing smile I hadn't seen since the beginning. I stared at it like a man staring through glass at something he used to own but could never touch again. Then she looked at me, just for a second, a flicker of guilt, or maybe pity. That's when I understood what betrayal really feels like. It isn't the sharp pain of loss. It's the dull, lingering ache of being replaced by your own shadow, because he wasn't mocking me. He just was me, without the heartbreak, without the damage, without the weight of all the promises I couldn't keep. He was the version of me she used to imagine before she met the real one. "I should go," I said quietly. Her lips parted, but she didn't ask me to stay. Neither did he. So I stood. My chair scraped the floor, the sound sharp, final. Before I left, I looked at her one last time. "Take care," I said. She smiled, soft, almost tender. "You too." 2 words, that was all. but they carried the weight of an ending disguised as politeness. Outside, the rain had started again. It always seemed to find me when I least wanted it to. I stood under the awning, watching their reflection through the window. They were laughing again. The sound muffled by glass, but still somehow louder than the storm around me. I wondered if she noticed the similarities, if, when she looked at him, some part of her remembered me. Or maybe that was the point. Maybe she wanted someone close enough to me that she could love him without the ghosts of what we had. Maybe I was never the love of her life. Maybe I was just the rehearsal. When I finally walked away, I didn't go home. I wandered through the streets until the lights blurred into watercolor. My reflection followed me in every puddle, distorted, fading with each step. I ducked into a bookstore, our old spot, the one with the cracked ceiling and dusty shelves. We used to sit in the corner, reading silently together. She'd pick random books, open to the middle, and read a line aloud. "If the line hits your heart," she'd say, "it's meant for you." I ran my fingers along the shelves, half hoping for a message from the universe. One book slid loose, its title lost to wear. I opened it to a random page. "You will meet yourself in another's eyes, and you will learn what it means to lose twice." I closed the book, exhaling. The truth always finds new ways to follow you. By the time I got home, the night had thickened into silence. The mirror in my hallway caught my reflection as I passed. For a moment, I almost didn't recognize myself. I looked like him. Or maybe he looked like me. What difference did it make? Either way, she chose the one who hadn't been broken by her. I sat down by the window, staring at my own reflection in the glass. Raindrops distorted it, turning my face into something abstract, a painting without a subject. That's when I understood. She hadn't fallen out of love. She simply found someone who resembled the version of me she once adored, untouched by disappointment, unscarred by loving her too deeply. And maybe that's what people do when they can't heal. They find replacements for the ghosts they created. I took out my sketchbook, the one I'd stopped using after she left. For the first time in months, I drew. Not her, not him, just the space between them. Two blurred outlines, one fading into the other. No faces, no names, just motion, the kind that suggests loss, not absence. When I finished, I titled it Doppelganger, and beneath it, in small letters, I wrote, "He's not my reflection. I'm his shadow." As I closed the sketchbook, thunder rumbled in the distance. Somewhere in the city, I imagined them laughing again, unaware that their story began where mine ended. I didn't hate her, not anymore. I just hated the mirror she left behind, the one that kept showing me what I could have been if love hadn't broken me first. And as the night deepened, the reflection in the glass shifted, his face overlapping mine again, soft and endless. I looked straight into it and whispered, "Take care of her." Then I turned away before the reflection could answer. Her friends still asked about me. Sometimes they messaged out of nowhere, small talk disguised as curiosity. "Hey, how've you been? Did you ever finish that painting? We should all catch up sometime." But I knew what they were really asking. They wanted to know how I was after her, and I never knew how to answer that. Because the truth was, I wasn't after her yet. I was still living in the pause between her last message and my last reply. She told them we were just friends now. I saw it in a tagged story once, her laughing, her friends teasing, her voice half audible through the cafe noise. "Oh, him. We're just friends now." Just friends. I used to think those words were mercy, a soft landing after love falls apart. But hearing them from her lips, they sounded like a burial. Because just friends isn't neutral. It's a sentence. It is the way people clean the slate before writing someone else's name where yours used to be. She posted the pictures again. Not too many at first, just sunsets, coffee cups, captions about healing and growth. Then, slowly, he began to appear. First as a reflection in her sunglasses. then as a shadow beside her, then as a hand, resting exactly where mine used to. It was always his arm, his smile, his warmth. And yet, every time I scrolled past her feed, it felt like watching my old memories get overwritten in real time. Same places, same poses, different version of me. He even wore the same jacket I left at her place once. I recognized it instantly. The frayed thread on the right cuff. She used to tease me about never fixing it. Maybe she told him the same story. Maybe he laughed too. I didn't delete her number. I didn't block her either. Not because I wanted to talk, but because erasing her from my phone felt too easy, too clean. I wanted the weight of it to stay, the temptation, the restraint, the quiet proof that I could live with her ghost and not reach out. Her name still sat there in my contacts, unchanged. The last message she sent was still pinned to the top. I hope you're okay. I never replied, not because I wasn't okay, but because I wanted her to wonder. Silence became my language, my only way of speaking without words. At first, it felt like suffocation, every unsent message a stone on my chest, but slowly, silence began to feel powerful. Because silence doesn't beg, it doesn't explain, it just exists. Steady, quiet, unignorable. She used to say I always needed the last word. So this time, I gave her none. That was my revenge. Not loud, not cruel, just final. Sometimes late at night I'd open our old chat, not to read it, just to see it. All those blue bubbles, frozen mid-story. The laughter, the apologies, the plans that never happened. It was like walking through the ruins of a city I once built by hand. Her typing bubbles would appear sometimes. 3 dots, then gone. I never replied. That was the game we played now. Typing, deleting, pretending. She didn't realize it, but I could tell when she missed me. Not through words, but through absence. The kind that lingers between "how are you" and "never mind." One night, she finally sent something new. "Do you ever think about us?" I stared at it for a long time. The message sat there, glowing faintly against the dark, and for a moment, every version of me, the angry one, the broken one, the forgiving one, fought to reply. But I didn't. Not because I didn't think about us, but because thinking about us was the only thing I had left that was mine. Her next message came hours later. "Guess not." And then she stopped trying. The days blurred. Her face still appeared online, framed by the same filters, the same laughter that once belonged to me. He was there too, always close enough to touch her, always in the light. I became the negative space, the one not mentioned, not tagged, not remembered out loud. Friends stopped asking eventually. They learned to replace my name with his, my stories with theirs. That's how erasure works. Not all at once, but piece by piece. Until one day, you realize you've been edited out of someone's narrative entirely. I kept painting. It was the only thing that still made sense. At first, the colors were dark. Bruised blues, tired grays, streaks of black that bled into everything. But as weeks passed, something softer crept in. Gold. Not bright, but tired gold. The color of a sunset that knows it won't rise again. One night I painted her from memory. Not her face, just her outline, fading into a background of noise and static. When I was done, I titled it Erased. And beneath it, in small letters, I wrote, "Sometimes silence says, 'I loved you,' louder than any confession could." Then one morning, I saw it, her new post. A photo of the two of them smiling at the beach. Captioned simply, "Peace looks good on us." It didn't hurt like before. It just settled, like dust on something that's been undisturbed for too long. Because peace, I realized, doesn't mean no pain. It means learning how to live with the kind that never leaves. Weeks later, she texted me again, just one word. "Hey." No context, no reason. just a thread tugged loose in the middle of the night. I read it, then locked my phone. I didn't reply. That was the difference between who I was and who I'd become. She once told me silence made her anxious, that she always needed to fill it. But I'd learned to live in it, to breathe it in until it felt like home. A month passed before I saw her again. By accident, a bookshop this time. She looked up, surprised. He wasn't with her. We exchanged a quiet smile. No words, no small talk. Just two people who used to know each other too well, now pretending not to remember how it felt. She reached for a book. I recognized the title, the same one we'd once shared lines from. Her fingers brushed the spine, then froze. For a second, it looked like she might say something, but she didn't. She just nodded once, small, polite, and walked away. The door closed softly behind her, and for the first time, I didn't feel the urge to follow. Outside, the city was glowing with rain again. I stood there, watching her umbrella disappear into the crowd, her reflection breaking apart in puddles. It hit me then. She wasn't the villain, and I wasn't the victim. We were just two people who couldn't stay written in the same story anymore. Silence had finished what words couldn't, and in that quiet, I finally understood. Being erased isn't the same as being forgotten. Sometimes, it's just the world making space for a version of you that no longer needs to exist. I walked home that night without checking my phone. For once, I didn't need her name lighting up the screen to feel alive. Because peace, I realized, isn't found in replies. It's found in the strength to leave them unread. And as I reached my door, I whispered to no one in particular, Silence isn't empty. It's just the sound of something ending quietly. It came on an ordinary day, the kind of day that doesn't announce anything. A soft drizzle outside, gray light seeping through the curtains, the faint hum of a city too tired to care. I was sketching aimlessly when my phone buzzed, a message from a mutual friend. "Hey, she left something for you. Said you should have it." When we met later that afternoon, he handed me a small cream-colored envelope. No name, no return address, just my initials written in her handwriting, the one I could have recognized even in the dark. I didn't open it right away. For hours it sat on my desk, staring back at me. There was something haunting about its stillness, as if the words inside were holding their breath, waiting for me to decide if they deserved to be read. Finally, when the rain began to hit harder against the windows, I broke the seal. Inside was a single sheet, slightly crumpled, the ink smudged at the corners like she'd hesitated too long before finishing it. I don't know why I keep chasing reflections. That was the first line. No greeting, no name, just that sentence, raw and trembling. I read it again, and again, until the words began to feel like confessions whispered through glass. Maybe because you never stayed long enough for me to see the real you. Never stayed long enough for me to see the real you. The letters wavered slightly there, a faint streak of water cutting through the ink, tear or rain, I couldn't tell, but it made the sentence heavier somehow. For a moment, I wanted to laugh. For another, I wanted to cry. Both emotions stood there, staring at each other, unsure which one would win, because she wasn't entirely wrong. I didn't always stay. Sometimes I disappeared into my own silence, too tired to explain myself, too scared to show her the versions of me that weren't poetic or calm or easy to love. She wanted honesty, and I gave her performance. She wanted warmth, and I gave her art. Maybe that's why she fell for the man who looked like me, because he wasn't hiding behind metaphors. Her next line hit deeper. You were always somewhere else, even when you were next to me. I used to think it was mystery. Now I think it was fear. I felt my throat tighten. She always had a way of naming what I couldn't. Fear, yes. Not of losing her, but of being fully seen. She had this way of looking at me that felt like she could peel the layers I built around myself. Every mask, every smile, every quiet, I'm fine. It terrified me. So I hid behind my words, behind gestures that looked like affection but were really avoidance in disguise. The next paragraph was shorter. I loved you, you know, in my own broken way. But maybe love isn't supposed to feel like trying to hold your reflection still in water. I paused there, because that line felt like the truth neither of us could say while we were together. Love between us was always fragile. It shimmered and vanished with the slightest ripple of doubt. We never learned how to hold it still. And now, reading her handwriting, I realized how much of our story was just that. Two people mistaking movement for depth, silence for peace. He isn't you, she wrote, but maybe that's the point. He looks like you, but he doesn't flinch when I ask hard questions. He doesn't disappear when I reach out. He just stays. I exhaled slowly. The words didn't sting. They just settled somewhere deep, like old rainwater filling cracks in pavement. She was right. I never stayed long enough. I made leaving look like self-preservation when it was really fear dressed as control. She didn't choose him over me. She chose stability over uncertainty, reality over poetry. And maybe, for the first time, I understood her choice. There was one last paragraph. The handwriting wavered, softer, smaller, almost like she didn't intend for anyone to read it. If you're reading this, it means I never found the courage to give it to you, maybe because I knew what you'd do. You'd read it, smile that quiet smile, and let me go all over again. You always let go so gracefully it hurts. I sat there for a long time after that. The sound of rain filled the silence. The paper trembled slightly in my hands. Not from the wind, but from me. She was right again. That's exactly what I would have done. Smile. Say nothing. Let her go. Because I never knew how to fight for someone without losing myself in the process. I folded the letter carefully and placed it back into the envelope, not because I wanted to keep it, but because some truths deserve to rest quietly once they've been spoken. On the back, I wrote one line in pencil. You did see the real me. I just didn't believe I was worth staying for. Then I tucked it away in the drawer where I keep unfinished sketches, the kind that never make it to the canvas. That's what she was to me now, a beautiful, unfinished thing. Days passed, I didn't reach out, didn't ask her why she never sent it, didn't tell her that I understood every word. Because sometimes, closure isn't a conversation. It is the quiet decision to stop explaining yourself to someone who already heard everything you never said. I began to paint again that night. Not her this time, not us. Just a single image. A letter half submerged in water, the ink bleeding softly, becoming part of the current. When I stepped back, I realized what it meant. Her words didn't drown me. They set me free. Weeks later, I ran into that same friend again, the one who'd given me the letter. He asked casually, "Did you read it?" I nodded. He smiled faintly. She said if you did, maybe she'd finally stop waiting. I looked away, toward the street where rain was beginning to fall again. Then I hope she does, I said quietly. And for the first time, I meant it. That night, I placed the letter under my mirror, the same one where I'd first questioned who I was before her. The reflection felt different now. Not healed, not whole, but honest. Because maybe that's what love really leaves behind. Not pain, not memory, but a version of yourself that finally knows what it means to stay. As I turned off the light, I whispered to the empty room, not as a goodbye, but as a truth that no longer needed to hurt. She never sent the letter, but somehow it still reached me. And for once, silence didn't echo. It answered. The gallery smelled like fresh paint and quiet pride, the kind that comes from finally rebuilding what someone once shattered. I stood among strangers who saw only color and form, but I knew every brushstroke carried a confession. Each piece was a memory disguised as art, each shadow a whisper of what I survived. I didn't expect her to come, not after all this time, not after the silence. But when the door creaked open and she stepped inside, the air changed, like the universe inhaled and forgot to exhale. She still moved like guilt, graceful, hesitant, wrapped in the perfume of too late. Her hair was shorter, her eyes a little older. She looked around the room as if walking through our ghosts, her gaze searching for the version of me she had left behind. When our eyes met, something small inside me flinched. Not from love, but from the muscle memory of it. She approached slowly, each step a question I had already answered. "Congratulations," she said, her voice trembling the way it used to when she tried to hide regret behind pride. "You made it," I smiled faintly. "You helped," I replied. She blinked. "I did?" "By leaving." The silence between us stretched, thin, fragile, and necessary. She turned to the painting beside her. Two silhouettes standing in opposite directions, one dissolving into the canvas, the other illuminated by gold light. Her hand lifted to her chest as she whispered almost reverently, "It's us." I looked at the piece too. It had taken me weeks to finish, but years to understand. "No," I said softly, my tone steady, my reflection clear in the varnish. "It's what we used to be." Her lips parted as if to protest, but no words came out, just a trembling breath that sounded like apology. I watched her eyes gloss with memories, the late-night talks, the laughter that once filled my apartment, the silence that eventually replaced it. She was staring at the ghost of herself, and I think she knew it. "You're painting again," she said after a while. "I never stopped," I murmured. "I just changed the subject." Her laugh was small and broken, like glass against tile. "You look different," she said. "I feel different. And happier." I nodded. Happiness doesn't always need company. She looked away, blinking fast, trying to gather composure. "He wasn't you," she whispered, "no matter how much he looked like you." "I know," I replied. "That was never the problem." She frowned, confused. "Then what was?" "You never wanted me," I said quietly. "You wanted a version of me that didn't exist, one that smiled when you needed, listened without asking, stayed without question." She opened her mouth, then closed it. The truth has a way of silencing even the boldest hearts. Around us, people continued moving, admiring the art, whispering opinions, unaware that a love story was quietly unraveling in the corner. Her fingers brushed the edge of the painting's frame. "Do you still think of me?" she asked, almost too softly to hear. I took a moment before answering, letting the question breathe. "Yes," I said finally, "but not in the way you want me to." She flinched, just slightly. "Then how?" "Like a lesson I needed," I said. "Like rain before spring, pain before peace." She looked at me then, really looked, as if seeing me for the first time. And maybe she was, because this time I wasn't standing in her reflection. I was standing in my own light. Her eyes shimmered, and for a second I thought she might cry. But instead, she smiled, a small, broken thing. "You sound like someone I wish I'd known better." "You did," I said. "You just didn't stay long enough to know me twice." Her gaze dropped to the floor, and for a heartbeat, I almost reached out. Out of habit, not love. But I didn't. Some ghosts need distance to fade. When she finally turned to leave, her reflection lingered in the glass door. Two silhouettes again, one walking away, one standing still. Only this time, I was the one still facing forward. I watched her step into the night, swallowed by streetlights and passing strangers. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the urge to follow. As the door shut, the gallery returned to its quiet hum. My painting glowed under the lights, two figures frozen in a story that had already ended. I exhaled. It felt like closing a book I'd been carrying for too long. Some stories don't need an ending, I realized. Just acknowledgement that they happened, that they hurt, and that they healed. I turned back to the canvas and whispered, Not to her, but to the ghost that once lived inside me. Thank you for leaving. That's how I found me. And for the first time, the silence that followed didn't ache. It felt like peace. Heartbreak doesn't destroy. It refines. It doesn't burn you down. It melts away what is false until only the raw, honest parts remain. At least, that ye what I started to believe the day I found myself standing in front of a blank canvas again. The smell of turpentine, the faint hum of rain outside, the steady rhythm of my own breathing, it all felt strangely new, like I was meeting myself for the first time. I hadn't painted since before her. Back then, every brushstroke felt like reaching for her silhouette, the curve of her smile, the tilt of her head, the warmth of her skin in candlelight. She was my muse, my reason, my undoing. But now, standing in the quiet of my apartment, I realized I didn't remember how to paint her face anymore. And maybe that was the beginning of healing. The first few paintings were clumsy, desperate attempts to capture something I couldn't name. Every canvas ended up looking like her. Blurred outlines, hollow eyes, fragments of the past bleeding through layers of color. I tried to paint her out of me, but she kept returning in shades of gold and gray. It frustrated me. I'd throw the brush down, step back, and curse under my breath. How do you stop painting someone who once lived in your hands? But art has a way of teaching patience, of reminding you that creation and destruction are just two sides of the same heartbeat. So I kept painting, day after day, until the lines began to shift, her image softening, fading, until the strokes became sharper, stronger, more me. The moment I realized the change, it startled me. I was painting a portrait, same desk, same lamp, same window light. But when I stepped back, I saw myself. Not the tired version who waited for texts that never came, not the hollow one who mistook silence for peace. This was someone new, someone who wasn't defined by the way she saw him. And for the first time in months, I smiled. Not the polite kind I'd practiced in public, but the small, private smile of someone who finally recognized his own reflection. I started going out again, not to chase distraction, but to breathe. The world looked different, colors sharper, music clearer. It's funny how, when your heart breaks, everything becomes unbearable. And then, one day, it all starts to bloom again, as if the pain had been watering something all along. At cafes, I'd sketch strangers, couples, loners, dreamers, each one a fragment of a story I no longer needed to live to understand. I watched them laugh, argue, hold hands, let go, and I realized something simple, almost cruel in its clarity. Love isn't about finding someone who completes you. It's about becoming complete enough to not need them to. Healing isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself with a victory post or a glowing face under new sunlight. It's quiet, subtle, sometimes invisible. It's the first morning you wake up and don't check your phone. It's the first song that plays and doesn't hurt anymore. It's walking past mirrors without flinching, seeing your reflection and not comparing it to a memory. For months, I avoided mirrors. Every glimpse felt like a reminder of what she'd chosen, or rather, who she hadn't. But now, when I looked, I saw something different, not better, just real. Eyes tired, but clearer. A smile that didn't need validation to exist. I could finally look at myself without wondering whose reflection I resembled. One evening, I found one of our old photos tucked inside a book. We looked happy, her head resting on my shoulder, my hand half raised as if unsure whether to hold her or let her go. I traced the outline of our faces, feeling nothing but a soft ache. I didn't tear it, didn't burn it, I just placed it back and closed the book. Because letting go isn't destruction. It is choosing not to revisit the pages that no longer belong to your story. Months passed. My art began to change again. Galleries that once ignored my submissions started calling back. A small exhibition, then another. People said my work felt personal, vulnerable. They asked what inspired it. The emotion, the honesty, the quiet power. I'd just smile and say, "Loss has a strange way of teaching you truth." Because it wasn't her face that inspired the paintings anymore. It was the absence she left behind, the empty space that became a mirror. And in that reflection, I found everything I'd been trying to express all along. One night, after an exhibition, I caught sight of my reflection in the glass door of the gallery. For a split second, I thought I saw him, the other version of me, the one she'd chosen. But it wasn't him. It was me. Older, calmer, a little scarred, but standing taller. And in that moment, I didn't feel envy, didn't feel loss, just a quiet gratitude for the pain that refined me into someone I could finally love. I remember something she once said, in the middle of one of our quiet fights. "You love beautifully," she told me, "but you don't know how to stay." Back then, I thought it was an accusation. Now, I think it was a prophecy. Because she was right. I didn't know how to stay. Not with her, not even with myself. But now, I was learning. Every brushstroke, every breath, every morning I didn't look back. It was me choosing to stay. Not for anyone else. Just for me. One of my last paintings in that series was called The Becoming. It showed a figure standing before a mirror. Half his reflection blurred, the other half emerging from light. People said it looked hopeful, but to me, it was something more than hope. It was truth, a visual reminder that healing isn't about who left, it's about who stayed, and in my story, that person was finally me. I never sent her an invitation to the exhibition, though I knew she'd hear about it. She always did. Maybe she saw the photos online. Maybe she stood outside one evening peeking through the glass, the way I once watched her from behind a half-open door. I'll never know, and strangely, I don't need to. Because for the first time, her silence didn't define me. It freed me. That night, after everyone had left, I stood alone in the gallery, surrounded by my paintings. By every version of myself I'd painted to survive her absence. The lights dimmed, the room was quiet, and for the first time since everything ended I whispered, softly but with certainty, "Thank you for breaking me open." The words didn't taste bitter. They tasted like closure, because heartbreak didn't destroy me. It refined me. And what remained, what I became, was someone I finally recognized. The night air was cold, the kind that stings softly, like truth finding its way through a scar. The gallery lights behind me flickered out one by one, leaving the street bathed in amber haze. I stood outside, breathing in the aftertaste of paint, applause, and endings. That's when I heard her voice. "Can we talk?" I didn't turn immediately. I already knew that tone. The tremble between hope and surrender. When I finally faced her, she stood there clutching her coat, her hair slightly undone by the wind. The city glowed behind her like a memory trying too hard to stay alive. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence stretched, fragile as glass. Then she said it, the one line that used to be my entire world. "I still love you." The words floated in the air between us, soft and heavy. I could almost hear the echo of her old voice, the way she used to whisper it in half-sleep against my chest when love still felt like something sacred. But tonight, it sounded different. Tired. Late, like a song replayed after the record cracked. "Not him," she added quickly, desperate now. "You. I never stopped." Her eyes searched mine, hoping to find the boy who once would have broken just to hold her again. But he wasn't here anymore. I buried him months ago, beneath every brushstroke, every apology that never came. "I know," I said finally. My voice was calm, too calm. "But that doesn't change anything." Her expression faltered. "Why?" "After everything." "Because love doesn't echo the same after it breaks," I said. "It still sounds like love, but it never feels like it again." She took a shaky step closer. "Then let me fix it. Let me try." I almost laughed, not out of cruelty but recognition. I'd been there once, trying to resurrect something already dead, believing sincerity could out-talk time. "You can't fix something that wasn't broken," I said quietly. "It just ended." She shook her head, tears catching in the corners of her lashes. "It didn't end for me." "Then you're still standing where I left you," I said. "But I've walked on." The wind stirred between us, carrying the faint hum of the city, a reminder that the world doesn't pause for heartbreak. She stepped closer again, her hand trembling as if reaching for permission. "I miss the way you used to look at me," she whispered. I smiled faintly. "That's the problem. You miss how I looked at you, not how you looked at me." Her lips parted, no defense left, just silence. "I thought if I saw you again, I could explain," she murmured. "That maybe you'd understand why I practiced a confession for someone else," I finished, not with anger, but with weary kindness. She flinched. The memory hung between us like smoke. "I was lost," she said. "He looked like you, and maybe I wanted to love you without the parts that scared me." I nodded slowly. "You wanted my reflection. Easier to love, easier to leave." A tear finally slipped down her cheek. "And what about you? Don't you ever think about what we could have been?" I exhaled, looking past her, at the streetlights painting gold halos on the wet pavement, at the distant silhouettes of strangers passing by. "Sometimes," I said, "but I also think about who I became because it ended." She pressed her lips together, fighting the tremor in her voice. "Then, you've really moved on." "I didn't move on," I said softly. "I grew out." She blinked. "Out?" "Yes, out of the space we built, out of the silence that used to feel like home." She looked down, a faint broken smile forming. "So, this is it then." "This is peace," I said. For a long time we just stood there. Two people who once shared everything, now sharing nothing but air. Then, quietly, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small folded note. "I wrote something," she said. "I don't know if it matters anymore, but..." I shook my head gently. "Keep it." "Why?" "Because some words are meant for the person you used to love, and that person isn't here anymore." Her hand trembled as she lowered the note. The wind caught the edge of the paper, and for a second I thought it might fly away, like everything else that once belonged to us. When she finally spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. "Then, who am I talking to now?" I smiled. Not the kind she used to know, but the kind that comes after healing. "You're talking to the man I became after losing you." Her breath hitched. "He sounds different." "He had to be." She nodded slowly, tears falling now, quiet and real. "I just wish I'd met him sooner." "So do I," I said, "but he wouldn't exist if you hadn't left." That was the truth. Cruel and kind at the same time. For a moment, the world felt still. Then she whispered, almost like a confession to the night itself, "I'm sorry." I looked at her, at the version of me she once tried to love, and at the version of herself standing in the ruins of that attempt, and said the only thing that felt right. "I forgive you." Her eyes widened, as if forgiveness hurt more than rejection. And maybe it did, because it meant the story was truly over. She stepped back, nodding through her tears. "Goodbye." "Good night," I said. And just like that, she turned and walked away, into the glow of streetlights, into someone else's tomorrow. I watched until her figure dissolved into the blur of the city, until she was just another moving shape in the distance. For a moment, I stood alone, letting the night breathe around me. Then I caught my reflection in the gallery window, faint but alive. Not her ghost, not my shadow, just me. And I realized something quietly beautiful. She wasn't confessing to me tonight. She was confessing to the ghost she built out of regret. And I had already let him go. Tonight, I stood in front of the same mirror that once broke me. The same pane of glass that had watched me unravel, piece by piece, under the weight of love and illusion. For the first time in a long while, I didn't see the stranger she made me feel like. I saw myself, unpolished, unguarded, but whole. The room was quiet. No whispers of her laughter in the corners, no ghost lingering behind my reflection. Just me, and the soft hum of the city beyond the window. It's strange how silence can hurt one year and heal the next. I traced my fingers along the mirror's edge. I used to hate this thing, how it exposed everything I didn't want to face, every crack in my smile, every hint of doubt behind my eyes. I blamed it for showing me the truth before I was ready to see it. Now, I thank it. Because this was where it started. The first betrayal. The first reflection that told me something was wrong. I caught her practicing that confession under this same light. The glow soft and cruel. Her words shaping another man's name. I remember how it shattered me without a sound. But tonight, I smile at the memory. Not with bitterness, but with grace. Because that moment, painful as it was, became the beginning of everything real. She fell for a version of me that looked perfect under dim light, the curated kind of love that flatters and forgives too easily, the one that hides the cracks beneath soft shadows. I played along, too afraid to show her the mess beneath the calm. Maybe that's why she needed a mirror of me, someone simpler, easier to love. But daylight has no patience for illusions. Now, when I look at my reflection, I don't flinch. The man staring back isn't flawless. His eyes carry sleepless nights, his hands hold stories that ache, and his smile. It's not perfect, but it's honest, and honesty feels lighter than love ever did. I think about her sometimes, not with longing, but with understanding. She was the chapter that taught me the vocabulary of loss, the ink that stained my pages so I could finally write something true. Some mirrors lie. Some lovers do too. But truth waits. It hides behind silence, behind pain, behind the long nights where you think you'll never recover. And then one morning, it just appears, like the sun hitting glass. I lean closer to my reflection, studying the eyes that once looked for answers in someone else. They look back at me now, steady, knowing. There's no ghost in them, no longing, just peace. Maybe healing isn't about forgetting who broke you. Maybe it's about finally recognizing who you've become because they did. Outside, the city hums, alive, unbothered, infinite. Somewhere out there, she might be walking under the same moonlight, thinking of the boy who once waited for her words. But I'm not him anymore. And maybe, just maybe, she isn't the same girl who left either. That's the quiet beauty of endings. They teach you how to begin again, differently. I take one last look in the mirror before turning off the light. My reflection fades into darkness, but I don't feel lost. Because I know who I am now, even when no one's watching. Love didn't ruin me. It revealed me. And for the first time, I'm not chasing reflections. I'm living them.